All right, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the November 9th, 2022 LSC meeting. I'd like to call the meeting to order, and we'll start by having a roll call to establish the quorum for Mrs. Townsend.
Stephen Mitchell.
Here.
Akira Barclay.
Here.
Charles Barron Jr.
Here.
Joyce Brown.
Here.
Dwayne Davis. Richard Flowers.
Here.
Eugene Lewis. Jennifer Lewis.
Here.
Tamara Pope.
Here.
Reginald Spears.
Present.
Nicole Spicer.
Present.
Renanda Townsend, present.
So for the record, we have established that there is a quorum. Next, we will move on to the approval of the previous minutes. Did everybody get a chance to look at the minutes? They were uploaded to the portal. I'll entertain a motion to approve those minutes.
I just would like to approve the minutes pending some corrections or additions. I know Mrs. Townsend needed the list of.
You need to
Okay.
get discussion.
I second. Okay.
Okay, motion's been made and properly second. Any discussion?
I would like to make some.
We need to amend part of the principal's report. The clinicians are not properly listed. In the minutes, it was a question of who else should be listed. The list of clinicians have been provided to Secretary Townsend. And so those updates will be reflected in the minutes and October. Yep. So that's the only correction I would like to note. I would like to rescind the motion.
I move that we accept the minutes with the necessary corrections notated by Principal Spicer.
Second.
All right, the motion's been made and second. Any discussion on the new motion? There being no discussion, all those in favor vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that's unanimous. Next, we'll move on to, just for the record, this is October, correct? All right. Moving on to the approval of the agenda. Has everyone had an opportunity to review the agenda? Okay. We did. I don't think, have the September minutes been uploaded? Okay. All right, so let's, I'll entertain a motion to approve the September minutes. Well, let's do it while it's all right here together, so we can get the minutes out of the way. So,
Second.
all right, the motion has been made and properly second. Any discussion regarding the September minutes? There being no discussion, all those in favor of approving the September minutes vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that's unanimous. Great. So now we can move on to the approval of the agenda. And from the parliamentarian, do we have to actually move and second and approve the agenda? Or is it just we look at it was published properly, right? In the time that it needs to be? Perfect. Unless it, I would just ask that everybody look at it. Does anybody have any additions or anything they want to make? All right, perfect. Now we'll move right into the principal's report.
Good evening, everyone. I'm just gonna go through some data with you all. Give me 1 second. All right, so our attendance rate this month is down from 96.81% to 96.28%, which is down about a half a point. Just want to remind families that anytime students arrive at school for more than an hour late, they are considered half day, and that does affect our attendance. So we are considering making some incentives for students who are here, present, and on time with no tardies. We don't necessarily want to emphasize perfect attendance because we want students who are sick to stay home. But we are looking to focus on tardies. On-track data will be updated shortly. Our current medical compliance is up to almost 85%, an increase from 81% last month. Grade point averages will also be updated as well. New this month, I did want to share the submission rate for our family income information forms. The family income information forms are important because they enable the school to qualify for additional and supplemental state aid. And currently we are at 38.23%. Families who have not submitted the form should have received a copy today in their child's backpack. So please check your child's backpack and make sure that you return that as soon as possible. The deadline to upload those documents into the online data system is Friday, November 18th. Our highest homeroom is Ms. Hernandez's homeroom with 75.86%. Our lowest homeroom is Ms. Shook's class, third grade, 18.52%. So again, these forms are needed to apply for additional supplemental aid on top of the funding that we receive from the district and the city. So all forms matter. If you do not want to disclose your information, you can always just write your child's name on it, sign it, and write not apply. We will be providing internal account and budget information this evening and upload it to the portal. We are on target for our emergency management compliance. We've completed our first allergen drill, first fire drill, and lockdown drill. Next week, we will be completing our second fire drill, and then homeroom teachers are showing our bus evacuation video, which is only about 3 minutes, so that we do not have to pay to have a bus to come out to practice the actual drill. So we'll be showing that video. I've included the November event calendar. Yesterday, no school for Election Day. Tomorrow, we will have in-person Perspective Family Open House starting at 6 o'clock. If you are interested in volunteering, please reach out to AP Bellamy. The week of the 11th, we will start our parent volunteer read aloud kickoff. We also will have our book fair the week of the 14th. We are also looking for volunteers for our virtual Perspective Family Open House, which will be on November 15th at 6. Picture Retake Day is November 16th. The Fall Musical is November 17th and 18th. Tickets are on sale now. The week of the 18th, we will also host more parent volunteers for read alouds. On the 21st, we will be offering virtual and in-person parent-teacher conferences. It's been almost, well, at that time, it'll be 4 weeks since report cards came out. We will provide an additional copy of the report card as well as preview the progress report grades, which will go home the following week. For the week of Thanksgiving, we are closed. Those are non-attendance days for all students. So students will not come to school the 21st through the 25th. And we will have our in-person family STEAM night on November 30th at 6:15. We are conducting classroom visits. We are focusing on whether or not the lesson target addressed the standards and if the student task is aligned to the learning target. Our vision for Bronzeville Classical School is to intentionally value and highlight the strength of all members through providing a personalized learning experience, celebrating diversity, and practicing creative problem solving in order to cultivate a strong accelerated program to nurture lifelong learning. Our mission is to commit to the personalized growth and empowerment of all. Our CIWP priorities are MTSS, instruction, balanced assessment and grading, and supportive and equitable discipline for all. New in our principal's report, we have new principal competencies. The principal report is now reflective of those new competencies. I will make sure that the LSC has the crosswalk because this year LSCs are evaluating principals based on the old competencies, but my boss is evaluating me on the new competencies. So I just want to make sure that there is a bridge there and that you all have access to the crosswalk and see if you have any questions before we get to that point. Just a little being proactive. So jumping into the first domain, which is organizational leadership, and this has to do with overseeing systems, structures, and processes for continuous improvement. Our instructional leadership team is engaging in co-lab professional learning led by the district to build the capacity of our teacher leaders through continuous cycles of improvement. The next session for the IoT is November 15th. The IoT is collecting perspective data from priority groups to gather information about the student academic experience to guide our work to improve student outcomes for all. Ms. Keepers and I attended the Personalized Learning Administrator Kickoff. The district is inviting schools to apply for formal personalized learning certification as a demonstration site. If not selected as a demonstration site, schools will receive coaching and support to work towards exemplary status. A team from Teaching and Learning will review artifacts, conduct classroom visits, and facilitate focus groups with staff and students. The IoT will provide feedback before we apply. This is our 5th year of change with 2 more to go, adding 7th grade and 8th grade. Our greatest challenge is balancing the challenges of growth with consistent structures and systems that support consistent continuous improvement. So as a part of my leadership development plan, the IoT will lead at least 2 cycles of improvement after our instructional core walk, which is scheduled on November 28th. Domain 2 is the instructional core, and this addresses the rigorous and coherent curriculum, instruction, and assessment that is aligned to meet the needs of every student. The school leadership team participated in 2 site visits with our instructional support leader, Felicia Porter. We found that most teachers had a lesson target posted that was aligned to the assigned student task. We have 1 more visit planned before our instructional core walk with the network team. Based on our beginning of the year iReady data, classroom assessments, and work on MyPath, teachers are engaging students in small group instruction for acceleration and/or support. Every student meets with their teacher in a small group at least once per week. Ms. Keepers and Principal Spicer are attending professional learning to support teachers in preparing students for the IAR, which is administered every spring for students grades 3 through 8. All content areas, reading, math, science, and social studies, will begin administering their quarterly interim assessments at each grade level except kindergarten. These assessments will be used to inform planning, shift small group assignments, and prepare for the IAR. This assessment is not graded. Domain 3, climate and culture, which ensures the organizational norms, routines, and systems equitably promote the students' intellectual, social, and emotional development. Thank you to all the students, staff, and families who contributed to the Principal Appreciation Month. It was definitely in October to remember. We had nearly 150 guests at our Fall Parent Social hosted by the Friends of Bronzeville Classical. New spirit gear in adult sizes were on hand. If you missed the sale, please see Mr. Flowers, Mr. Mitchell, Ms. Talbert, Mrs. Akins, or Mr. Fitzgerald. The Friends of BCS manage all spirit gear sales. This year, our 5th and 6th graders will complete the Cultivate survey. It is a tool for understanding how students are experiencing their learning environments and inviting students into partnership to set goals. Second Step and Calm Classroom are a regular part of our daily schedule. Second Step lessons are taught weekly. Calm Classroom is practiced as a whole school each morning and then after lunch and recess block. Each monthly newsletter includes the focus of the month and/or home links to share with families. And last but not least, Domain 4, which is talent. And this relates to ensuring identification, development, and retention of diverse talent and cultivate leadership. We have built partnerships with teacher talent pipeline programs, such as the CPS teacher residency, traditional student teachers, community partners to begin recruiting for school year 24. Mr. Spears will have a student teacher, and Ms. Hernandez has a student teacher. Mrs. Battle is hosting a resident. Ms. Hickman is also hosting a resident as well. We've also signed up to host other student teachers. So we are working very, very hard to build our own pipeline. All instructional support staff are participating in middle of the year job performance reviews. We are being reflective to support our team to foster a sense of belonging and connection. And so our instructional support team include our front office staff, security officers, classroom assistants, and teacher assistants, and then our miscellaneous employees, Ms. Jones and Ms. Thomas. We have begun reach observations for non-tenured staff that started this week. We do have 10 probationary appointed teachers. The school leadership team is using this first cycle to calibrate and standardize our feedback and support for our newest teachers. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Ms. Spicer. And next, we will move on to, let's pass the microphone so they can hear you out.
Thanks for that report, Principal Spicer. Can you hear me? All right. So I just have a couple of questions. And I know you mentioned regarding attendance that we have initiatives that you're considering. But then looking at medical compliance and the forums, who does the action planning for that? Is that something that we discuss here, or do you have a separate group that sit and discuss, what kind of actions can we take to improve this performance of these?
So I can tell you. So I'm looking at the list, and so primarily, it is our sixth graders who need the first meningitis shot, so they're not medically compliant. And the issue with this is in sixth grade, we have two ages. We have 11-year-olds, 12-year-olds, and we actually have one 10-year-old that will be turning 11. So sometimes, even though the grade goes with the medical compliance, some students have to wait for that birthday. So the majority of those students that are not compliant are sixth graders that have to get that meningitis shot. Of the other students who are not compliant, it is immunization and maybe, I think it's only one physical. I don't think that it's that they think they don't have the immunizations. We just have to harass the parent for the paperwork. So that's what I think it is. So our health service nurse that comes on Thursday and Friday, when he's here, he usually does parent outreach to say, hey, we still need to get these documents in on file so that they can be updated in the student information system.
All right, so there's a team that's looking at it.
Well, I would say a 10.
Well, somewhere.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
That's
Yeah.
nurse twice a week.
Yes.
Okay. And in terms of the forms, the same thing.
With the family income information forms, yes. So the first order of business was to see where we were. So we got all the forms we had processed. The first step was to send home another copy that usually gets another big wave in. And then by Friday, whatever forms we don't have, our support staff will help starting to call those families, and then I'll send out emails as well.
My last question, with the parent-teacher conference being 4 weeks this time, will this happen next semester, or is it correct this summer?
Now, you have the right people. You have the right people in the room because usually Mr. Spears and Ms. Lewis have planned out the whole year. So they will be able to tell you a little bit better how quick the turnaround is for spring report card pickup. I will say for this meeting or this semester, they wanted to kind of cluster the days off for students, and so that resulted in like this 4-week lag because usually we refer to November as November, but we don't have Veterans Day off, and then now we have like the whole week for Thanksgiving. So what does the calendar say?
March 16th is the end of the third quarter, and report card pickup is Wednesday, March 29th.
Yeah.
Okay. So
So,
still,
So that's more.
yes, I mean, I just want to make sure that, for the learners that need a little push or
Absolutely.
discussion, we won't wait till half the semester though before we can address those kids. one of them may be mine. But you know,
Yeah,
yeah, that's all I have.
understood. Yes,
For, when we look at grade point averages, it looks like there are 3 students that have a 2.0 or below.
yes, and so that was from last month, so that's why I'm actually trying to pull that up, so I can give you the exact number, but you can still answer questions, still relevant.
I was just curious, is there anything from a council standpoint that we can do to help you support those students so that we can not have any students in the red of being below a 2.0?
Yes, well,
No. Typically, students who are performing that low, it is an attendance issue. And so those students are receiving additional supports, already.
With respect to the personalized learning, there are things laid out, like if you don't get the certification or whatever, but if you do get it, what does that mean?
If we do get the designation, it is a district-wide recognition that we are a wall-to-wall personalized learning school, and we are exemplary on the rubric that they have in terms of instructional practices related to personalized learning. In all actuality, I don't think that we are going to be identified as a demonstration site, because the district had a couple initiatives related to personalized learning. One was getting professional learning for the team through the Institute of Personalized Learning. One was a whole school redesign, and they went through Elevate, which was a direct partner with Leap Innovations. And then I think there was a third option. We went through the professional learning option, which only targeted a pilot group of pilot group of teachers. So we are using tools, but we're not full wall to wall. So we probably will participate in the certification process to figure out what coaching and support we can get in order to become a demonstration site. So to be able to scale, because there are some schools that already went through that process with a partner and did a whole school redesign. When we came in, those cohorts were already identified. And quite honestly, they only identified schools who were in trouble academically for a whole school redesign. But because personalized learning was a pillar in our instructional program, when we opened in 2018, they welcomed us into a professional learning community to ensure that we had a pilot group of teachers who were learning about the instructional practices.
Awesome. Any more questions or feedback? All right. And you incorporated the diverse learners in your report, correct? Did you not talk about that? Did you talk about diverse learners yet?
we don't, yeah, I did not. I didn't talk about the budget board.
Okay, so you just gave your principal's report in general, but now we're going to talk about the budget. Okay.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mitchell. So just to share for non-personnel expenditures, we currently budgeted for $288,543.41. And those allocations were to support instructional materials, supplies by content area, as well as professional and administrative services like consultants, professional learning, travel, professional development, student transportation, seminar fees, subscriptions, our copier contract, and more. So far, we have $72,887.65 in expenditures. So we have $198,367.46 available. So we are in good fiscal standing at this point of the school year. Yes. We have spent $72,887.65 with remaining funds of $198,367.46. Okay, thank you. Our positions remain the same. We do not have any vacancies. All positions are filled. And then I did want to share our ending balance for internal accounts. In internal accounts, we have $74,125.94. Specifically in student fees, we have $23,487.88. And then for our diverse learners, everything remains the same. We're in compliance, no compensatory education is needed, and we do not have any vacancies.
Great, thank you for the budget review. Next, we'll move on to diverse learners.
I just said no changes.
Okay, now we'll move on to old business. We approved the minutes already. So now we'll go to new business, fundraiser for the marquee.
I would like to make a motion to approve. Okay, no. I move that we approve marquee messages in the amount. Oh, I need to get the e-paper. I move that we approve the marquee fundraiser so that families can display messages for their children, typically for their birthdays, in the amount of $30 per message.
Thank you, Dr. Davis. Dr. Davis is here.
All right, the motion has been made and properly second. Any discussion? So, okay. So for the record, first we'll recognize that Member Davis is in attendance, and then we have discussion.
Quick question about the marquee messages. Is there like a certain amount of text that you can or cannot have?
Yes, and so we typically work with the families on that because too much text makes it small. So we typically just say happy, whatever your birthday it is to the child. And the parent includes like the favorite color.
And then do you have specific times and days that the students and families can expect to see it? Is it only Monday through Friday school hours or?
It is that one day during the week and the hours that the marquee is up.
Okay.
I believe the marquee is up maybe 7 to 6 or 8, something like that, but it's just that day.
Okay, thank you.
You asked my questions.
How far in advance do the parents need to submit the request for the
At least
birth?
1 week. It's not approved yet.
And then my question was, is this year round or just during the school year?
Oh, just during the school. Oh, God.
Because you have a lot of summer birthdays.
Do, including my own. I'm okay.
I can only commit to during the school year because I have help to manage it. Over the summer may be a challenge, but I am not above celebrating a half birthday. As a summer birthday person myself, we were never in school in August, so I never celebrated birthdays at school. So we are not above celebrating half birthdays. As long as it's 1 week in advance, so 6 months. So I'm an August birthday, so I could have a half birthday in February. Mhm. Because we're inclusive.
The only thing I'll say is that I'm in favor of it, is that next year, if we need to visit this for next year, that we make sure we address it at the end of this year so that students that have birthdays when the school year start don't miss out. And mine.
Yes, because the marquee messages just wasn't at top of mind, and so when I started to get requests, I realized we didn't have approval for that, so we have to be proper and in order.
Why are you looking? No, I asked her about this and it sort of prompted this whole thing. So that's why she's looking at me like that. All right, so any more discussion? All right, the motion has been made and properly second. All those in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that motion passes. Next up, budget transfers.
There are none for this month.
Awesome. School check payments.
We are only paying 1,000 watts, and we've already discussed those amounts. So no additional payments. We had 2 field trips, so we did have expenditures for the buses for those field trips. Group of students went to Dunbar High School for the Network 9 High School Fair, and I will say we got a lot of feedback on our 6th graders. Very, very proud of them and how they showed up. Had some fantastic school programs there. Westinghouse, Whitney Young, Lindblom, all of the programs came out, and we're very impressed by our students. And then the second expenditure this month will be for a field trip to the Pullman Center for our 3rd and 4th graders to participate in the annual STEM Day, where our 3rd through 6th graders who competed in the Math Masters will compete with other schools from across the city. So we're very excited to be sending 32 students to represent Bronzeville in that competition.
Great. Next, we'll have IAR results. I'm sure you have a lot of comments about that.
So last Friday, we did send home the spring 2022 IAR results. So if you had a child who was in 3rd, 4th, or 5th grade last year, you should have received a score report for reading and for math. The statewide testing has always been a limited data source because of the time it takes in order to get the score reports back. Because the data was from the previous school year, at the beginning of the year, we prioritized our beginning of the year assessments. And for Bronzeville Classical School, that was our iReady results. We felt that sending home 2 score reports for 2 separate assessments, 1 current, 1 past, would be confusing for families. So we wanted families to know where their children stood currently. And so this past Friday with the report cards, we did want to send home the IAR test results. We talked about these results ironically today during my principals meeting. And so the way that we are using the results, because it is old data, is we are looking for trends on how our students are performing over time, and then making sure that teachers understand the types of questions that students are being asked, as well as what proficiency looks like on those answer or those question types. So we do have documents that show what proficiency looks at the standard level. So when teachers are addressing the grade level standards, they are able to make sure that they are mirroring the tasks that students are going to be asked to perform when they take the IAR in the spring. So for us this year, I believe, Ms. Gilliam, this is in March or April? Okay, we'll firm that up when that is. But in full transparency, this is our first year really focusing on IAR. 2 years ago, when our 3rd graders first took it, we had students in a hybrid learning model. Half the students were here, half the students were at home, and we were learning remotely. So we really did not address IAR specifically. Last year was our 2nd year taking it, and we all know what type of year that was, transitioning back full in person and that transition that required. So this is really our first year digging in to the IAR data and making sure that teachers feel equipped and able to prepare students accurately for the spring assessment. But this will be the case with statewide testing holistically because districts across the state are taking it. There are some open response answers. So typically we get the preliminary results in the summer and then we get the final grade reports in the fall. And Ms. Gilliam just confirmed that the testing is in March to April. Yes. And it is all online.
Just a comment regarding this. I just really believe that the state or whoever is doing this really needs to understand that this sort of feeds into the dysfunction that people believe the state has. You have a spring assessment that you get in the middle of or after the fall quarter or semester has started. Teachers aren't able to use it to plan or help the students out. They've already taken another assessment by the city. It just seems useless, quite frankly. It's not useful for us as parents. It's not useful for the teachers, and it just seemed like a waste of time because hopefully the kids will have learned or the teachers have already planned and everything by then. And as parents, we're half a year ahead. It's not useful at all. And I think the powers that be really need to understand that if they're going to give this kind of test, at least make it useful so that the teachers can plan and the parents can sort of help their kids to improve in the areas that they need. So it's useless.
We also use it as a data point, a part of our teacher evaluation system. So this is one metric that is used to evaluate how effective our instructional practices are. So this does feed into formal teacher evaluation ratings. So I do want to just share that. But with that, I did want to share that BCS is outperforming the network and the city on IAR, which we expect because we are a selective program. But even with the transition from the first year we took it in a hybrid setting to last year, we do have a lot of growth over time. I will be sharing the growth metrics during the state of school address I think we're going to do a report card pickup day and it'll be virtual. So if you have a virtual conference, you'll be able to join. And if you can't join, we will definitely record it. We did see in 2021, proficient and exceeding, we have 51% of students in ELA. Last school year 22, we had 75% students proficient or exceeding. And then a significant number of students moved from, well, I won't say significant, but students moved from approaching standards to meeting standards, as well as partially meeting standards to approaching. So we definitely had some growth there. And then for math, in 21, we had 58% of students meeting or exceeding. And then we still have 58% of students meeting or exceeding from school year 22. But I do want to note that the number of students who were approaching expectations increased. The number of students partially meeting expectations decreased, but they also went into the meeting or the approaching category, and we don't have any students that did not meet expectations in math. So still growth over time. I will share this during the State of the School address. Please hold your questions for that time.
I just had another question regarding teacher evaluation. How is IAR used to evaluate the teachers? Is it just that one test? Like, how is that used?
I don't need it. I'm sitting right here. My understanding, and it's changed like over the last couple of years, but according to the teacher contract, we have the reach observation as part of our assessment and the reach performance task. Those are the two metrics that are used for teacher evaluation. So not IAR directly, because we use the beginning of so the reach performance tasks that we administer to students are at the beginning of the year and the end of the year, and they use that growth metric to do some value added to our evaluations.
And then Ms. Spicer, can you just clarify the assessments that the city uses to evaluate the students? Because I know a lot of parents have talked about the IAR and then the other tests. So
Sure. So I'll start at the largest level. So at the state level, we administer the Illinois Assessment for Readiness. So that's the IAR. At the local school level, there is some autonomy. So for grades 3 through 8, the district provided assessment is the STAR 360. At Bronzeville Classical, we are using iReady instead of STAR 360 because of the data reporting and the instructional resources that are a part of iReady Suite that are not available in the STAR 360. Yes. And then, got to do a battery change.
If you talk louder here.
Okay, so IRs at the state level, at the district level, 3rd through 8th grade students participate in iReady. They also participate in a REACH performance test that Mr. Spears talked about. And then we also administer interim assessments. The interim assessments are basically our check-ins before we get to the IAR to ensure that students are
mastering standards along the way. And so those are the assessments. Each spring, the teachers collaborate with the administration to decide, on what our assessment suite will look like. And so we do take into account instructional needs of students, age of students. So like you heard me talk about in my report, that interim assessments are not going to be given in kindergarten because they're just not appropriate. Kindergarten team are doing different assessments to check along the way. But each spring, that's a part of our planning and vote.
all right, thank you. Any more comments or questions? All right, we'll move right on to the culture and climate survey.
So I did want to clarify for families that this year we will have 2 culture and climate surveys. So historically, we've always done the 5 essentials, which I'll pass out and talk about now. And so what I'm passing around to the LSC members are a copy of our summative scores for the 5 essentials. The 5 essentials is a survey that our 4th, 5th, and 6th graders will take with their teachers in class. It's an online survey that asks them about their instructional experience. And then our families typically participate in the survey during spring report card pickup. That's typically the window, and a similar window for teachers. So these survey results are a combination of parents, teachers, and students. This is our scores over time. You will see that Bronzeville Classical School is rated as well organized. These 5 essentials, areas which are effective leaders, collaborative teachers, ambitious instruction, involved families, and supportive environment, are basically the 5 elements that the University of Chicago's research has shared that if schools do these 5 elements well, students are going to excel, and it is probably a great school environment for students, families, and staff. You can see our scores over time. We are very strong in involved families and ambitious instruction, strong in collaborative teachers, supportive environment, and effective leaders. New this year is our Cultivate survey. The Cultivate survey is going to be a survey given to our 5th and 6th graders only. And the Cultivate survey is a tool for understanding how students are experiencing their learning environment, inviting them into partnership, and supporting teachers to better realize their own goals for student learning and development. Because this is new and I haven't really seen the tool, I am not sure how it's different from the 5 essential surveys that the students do at the end of the year. But what I do know is that it gives us an opportunity to measure the beginning of the school year and the end of the school year so that we can have a data point to really measure our impact around culture and climate, which we did not have a formal tool previously. Cultivate is not a tool for evaluating individual teachers or schools, and it is not a part of the accountability system. Cultivate was designed and validated to provide a safe space for teachers to give feedback and improve their practice from a student perspective. So that will be new this year.
So looking at the document that you passed out, collaborative overall Bronzeville health. Hello? Yeah. All right. So we get this data and I look at it and I see, yeah, we were strong, but I see that from 21 to 22, we went down. So, yeah, we're strong, but my question would be, okay, what happened? What are we doing about it? Are we just looking at it? Because we don't want to just pass out numbers and just look at numbers and gloss over it. If we're going down, we don't want to continue to go down. And then next year we're looking at, wow, we're below strong, So what are we doing? What is the process for assessing this? Or is this new and we're still trying to figure out what to do with the data or what?
Just provide some clarity. Greetings. COVID. I think we could just look at 21, 22 to say we've been in a global pandemic and everything has changed. And so I think we could look at it with a little bit of a squint as opposed to like a laser focus. But also, 5 Essentials is a statewide thing. So you can look at state report cards from every single public school in the state and compare the 5 Essentials across many states. And the whole entire district and the whole entire state still trying to figure out how to evaluate schools. So we don't have any SQURP scores, SQRP, because they're revising SQRP in order to address equity and other issues in the evaluation, and all the metrics have changed because all the assessments have changed. So since we're no longer giving NWA a map as a guide in order to talk about people at or above or below grade level, all the assessments are changing. So when you see Kelly green, when you see that strong green, you can check all the schools in the network and think about them being not green, sometimes yellow. And we all also, part of this survey too is about the instrumentation. So about teachers filling out the survey, parents filling out the survey, how they possibly feel about the survey. So it's taking metrics from all of those humans, but you also get a high score if just a lot of people fill it out, because you want as the highest possible response. So there's some schools get low responses on that. I personally had to experience where every single high school student at a high school I worked at, I was responsible for making sure they all filled out the 5 Essentials survey. So I just sat in a computer lab for a week working with teenagers on filling out a 5 Essentials survey. It was as torturous as it sounds. So just a little FYI, pandemic, assessments, data, we're all trying to figure it out. The whole district hasn't even rolled out what evaluations of schools are going to look like.
Feedback on why they can change the assessment so much? Like, why do they change it so much?
Which assessment are you talking about?
All of it.
It's So I think a number of factors weigh into that. First of all, it's above my pay grade. So when they send out RFPs for assessments and they set up contracts and length of time that you're using an assessment, what supports come with that. At the school level, we're really not privy to all those details. So I don't know if it is because the tool is no longer meeting our needs, and that's why we're shifting. I don't know if at the end of a contract there are additional asks and the company is not willing to do those things. But I am assuming best intent and that it is related to how we are shifting our lens on assessment as a district and really trying to focus on practice data and not just summative data that comes at the end of the year, and being intentional around which tools provide practice data, I think is important. Post-pandemic, that is something that the district is pushing, that we're not just looking at the end, but we are monitoring along the way and making sure that we value that as much as we do as the data that comes at the end. That's my own assumption, because those conversations don't happen necessarily at the local school level. We are just presented with options, and if those options don't meet our needs and you have the discretionary funds and able to do that, and it is related to your continuous improvement work plan, schools are able to autonomously make those decisions, which is why BCS is using iReady versus Star 360.
Do they get feedback from the teachers when they come up with these new assessments or new things? Because
No.
just they do not.
Well, that's why I think when Mr. Spears described CTU, like, hey, the contract says, the contract dictates that negotiation happens for the whole city through CTU.
I don't know if you answered the question, Dwayne, but I just wondered, looking back at the 5 essentials, is there any way of finding out or knowing how many individuals actually responded to that survey?
Yeah.
Where,
They don't give, so I have that, when the window is open. And so there is a participation threshold in order for you to get responses. And so that is something that we monitor on our school profile page. It can tell you what percentage of teachers actually participated in the survey. I will tell you, we have not hit 100%. But we are typically
Over 70%, which is pretty good. I did want to say a couple of things. And I know Mr. Flowers has a question, but in looking at the detailed report, and I can provide this for the LSC and share it at the parent meetings. When we look into some of the categories, it does tell us what parts to target, Dr. Barron, which speaks really to your question. So the first area, so like if we look at ambitious instruction, even though that's Kelly Green Strong, the students who participated in the survey last year was our 4th and 5th graders. When I look at this subcategory, math instruction was rated the lowest. We know Ms. Brown was on maternity leave for a semester. So that probably affected the way our students view what was happening in their math class. The next piece around collaborative teachers, our lowest areas were around quality professional development and then collaborative practices. So planning our release days, ensure common planning time, ensuring that teachers have opportunities to collaborate with each other horizontally on their grade level teams and then vertically with their content teams continue to be a priority, and we budget for that because I have to pay for subs so teachers can have that time. So those are some of the strategic ways that we're addressing that. And that is from the teachers' responses. In terms of supportive environment, which also comes from the students, student to teacher trust and academic personalism are the 2 lowest areas. And then safety was new this year. I don't really know what the safety questions are. I can ask those questions, but those are also student responses. So the student to teacher trust and the academic personalism, the Cultivate survey in theory should help us with that. So that's going to give teachers feedback on how students are experiencing school, give them an opportunity to pivot or have a strategic plan around that, and hopefully we'll see these numbers increase.
Real quick, Principal Spicer, the safety question, like one question is, how safe do you feel on your way to school and how safe do you feel in your school? So I would always talk to everybody like, hey, inside, when you walk inside the building, do you feel safe? And some people conflate that. So they say, hey, when I'm walking to school, so my nephew that attends here says, hey, in the park at night, it's unsafe.
Mhm.
There's a park across the street, like his perception about his school environment in the community. So the safety question asks an inside question, and then it asks an outside question. But now we're talking about 4th and 5th graders answering the survey question about how safe they feel. And you have to take for what they say, but you also have to think about the tool and instrument question.
And then in effective leaders, our lowest is around teacher influence. And so the way that we are addressing that is really building up our teacher leaders so that they are leading much of the committee work. So we are getting the answers to our questions and leveraging the expertise of folks that are already in the building as the building experts. So this is data that we do look at deeply and try to align our strategic plan to, just to, answer your question specifically. And those are like our areas that kind of on trend have been there. I also think that having some stability on the school leadership team now with having AP Bellamy will also improve our effective leader scores so that we are really supporting the teachers in the way that they need to be supported.
Thank you for that. I guess I'll say more, since you answered that as a comment versus a question. I would just say, as we move forward, if we're going to share this, it probably would be better to share some of the backstory that you just gave. Because when I look at this on its face, and I think the same thing when Dr. Barron looked at it, it looks like we're sliding. And having that data to go back behind it and understand where the numbers come from would help be able to look at this and evaluate, and then also understanding how many people took it. To Dwayne's point, if we have less people taking the survey and people are scored it low, then the number is going to be decidedly lower versus if the year before we had double the amount of people take it. So having that backup data helps us be able to evaluate the number and really figure out if there's an issue or that there's just some anomalies in there.
I do. You can hold it. Just two thoughts. One, in this whole conversation, I just want to point out too that we make sure that when those surveys go out to parents in the spring, that all of our families are filling out that 5 Essentials survey, because that helps us not only have more accurate data points here, what we're looking at, as to Mr. Flowers' point, if we only have 4 families fill it out and they are, not feeling kind of the cultural connection to the school, then that's going to skew our data as well. And the other thing was, I know that you said the Cultivate survey is only for 5th and 6th grade. Is there any thought about doing a culture survey for our younger students so that we can have that too? Because I know that there are some tools out there for younger students, or we could develop something for our younger students. I just didn't know if that was something that we had thought about or just.
I'm so happy that you asked.
The IoT is actually working on a student perception data survey. They're probably not going to survey all the students, but they are going to meet with focus groups to get responses to the survey questions. I think it's something really short, maybe like 7 questions. Ms. Gilliam, how many questions are on the survey? Yeah, so we do have some, the IoT is working on some student perception data to help with goal setting.
I have some suggestions about that maybe we can talk afterwards.
Absolutely. And so just to give you an idea of the participation rate, we had 99.9% of our students, and I think it's 100. I don't know if they just didn't want to say 100% of our students take it. As comparison in CPS, about 70% of students take it. 64% of our teachers took it this year. The CPS rate was 68.8%. It is a very long survey. I usually have to harass people to take it. So it is challenging to get participation up.
I was gonna say, even if we do the younger kids, as long as we get a certain amount, it will represent the mass. So if we just make sure we get that amount, it'll give you that whatever the group would generally come up with. Any more questions regarding or comments regarding culture and climate? All right, next we'll move on to the public comments.
There's only one. I'm sorry, there's 2 now. The first says, was the iReady assessment performed district-wide? And if so, what was the performance results for BCS, assuming iReady is a reasonable indicator of school performance?
I can share that information during the State of the School address. because I don't have that readily available. But iReady was administered district-wide kindergarten through second grade. We are one of the few schools that use it for third, fourth, fifth, and sixth. So I will be able to probably give you comparative data for kindergarten through second grade, but those results will be shared in our state of the school address. But let me see. I know I did pull it up for CEO Martinez did visit our school, and so I did pull that data. So if you give me 1 second. And reading overall, do some quick math here. 83% of our students are early on grade level or above in reading. And then in math, we have 63% are on grade level and above. But I don't have the district comparative data.
The other comment says, congratulations, and any thoughts on the latest ranking of BCS as number 52 of 2,077 schools on the Illinois elementary schools via School Digger?
Can you say that one more time?
Yes. It says, congratulations, and any thoughts on the latest ranking of BCS at number 52 of 2,077 schools on Illinois elementary schools via School Digger?
I don't even know what School Digger is, but it looks like we'll do some quick math. Was this top 10%, 20%? What is this? 2,077. Yeah, so we're in the top 4 or 5%. So I'm very, very proud of the work that we're doing. Whatever School Digger is.
There's a lot of those like school ranking things that you can look at that, you know, people, you know.
It's a breakdown of schools, like especially if people are moving, relocating to a different city, you can go to School Digger, plug in.
The one I've used before was the school report card, Illinois school report card. It's something, I'm guessing it's something similar to that.
Awesome. Any more comments?
That's it.
It's actually top 3%, just this one quick.
Yeah, I just did it too.
Yeah.
All right. Any questions, comments, or concerns from the LSC members?
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
I second that.
The motion's been made and properly second. Any discussion? And just real quick before, any announcements before we adjourn? Any announcements?
I got my certificate of completion.
Congratulations.
Good work, man. I think this goes to the secretary.
You're special, really. All
I
right.
do think, make sure that you
It's a
are.
motion pending.
Oh, I do say that?
Yeah, okay.
Please make sure you are doing your LSC modules. I believe the 5 that are out, most people have completed. The other ones, from what I'm told, are supposed to be led by other departments outside of LSC relations. And so I think that's what the holdup is, because I think there's like a talent one and I think there's like a budget one. So the on-demand trainers have been out there. I really support the Super Saturday. I was able to get a lot of my work done in those sessions. So consider a Super Saturday.
At the beginning of the month, the new schedule comes out. So.
They just sent it
Yeah,
out.
November.
They just sent it out.
Yeah, the November one, they didn't send December yet.
They sent this over.
No, not yet.
November.
They're gonna do it the last of the month.
Awesome. All right. Any more announcements? I saw entertain a motion to adjourn.
Again, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right. The motion's been made.
Do it. Just go. Just go.
Great. Any discussion?
Yeah, I got some additional discussion. Motion should start with I move. Not I make a motion. Please.
Unfortunately, that's not related to this, but yeah.
And we are loosely following.
So,
Robert's Rules of Order,
although-
guys.
All those in favor of adjourning, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Thank you, guys.